Okay, do you mind telling me your name and your major?
My name is Rolando Pharma. My major will be health science.
How long have you been at West Hills?
Uh, since 2017, so 3 years.
3 years.
I'm going the slow route. I do usually I do one class a semester.
Okay.
So
So are you currently working or are you?
yes, I'm a full time monitor tech at the hospital. I work in the ICU at the Venice Health Hospital in Hanford.
So I'm assuming that your goal is to either be a doctor or a nurse.
A nurse, starting off as a nurse.
So
Hopefully, yeah.
are you
Yes.
thinking about going to the doctor route at some point?
I think the highest I would go in healthcare would be a nurse practitioner.
Okay. A lot of the benefits, less pressure, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so can you tell me about your experiences at West Hills College?
Um, for me, it hasn't been bad. There's been a little bit of issues, but I feel for them. I think for the most part, it's been fairly okay, and a majority of that was because I was in a relationship, um, and she was, it was an interracial relationship. She was white,
Mm-hmm.
and so she was able to talk to my counselors and get my classes going and stuff like that. I feel like she played a big part in um, helping me get on the road to
Mm-hmm.
becoming or trying to become a nurse because she was in the same route. So it was kind of like, oh well, why does he have to take these classes? I'm not taking those classes and stuff like that. And then so in return, I was able to get steered in the right direction of taking the classes needed and not taking extra classes.
Mm-hmm.
As some students have been, as I've been told by other students who are not in that situation to where they have somebody who's like in the nursing program and they've been taking extra classes, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Why are you taking those classes
Mm-hmm.
when I'm taking these classes and I know somebody who's in the nursing program, they didn't have to take that class, they didn't have to take that class. So it's been fairly okay with me.
Mm-hmm. But do you feel that that's a result of you having the benefit
Yes,
of a partner who
definitely.
wasn't?
Definitely. I have a little cousin that's going to West Hills right now,
Uh-huh.
and he's taking extra classes. And I asked him, "Well, are you planning to transfer? Because you're planning to transfer, still go the route you're doing." He's all, "Well, I don't know." He's all, "I was planning to try to get into the West Hills program."
Uh-huh.
I was like, "Then why are you taking some of these classes that you don't need?" And
Uh-huh.
then he couldn't answer that question. And then so I was asking him, who's the person that your counselor,
Yeah.
who do you talk to? And then he told me, and then I was like, you should try to tell them that, hey, I know people who are in the nursing program and people who are getting ready to go to the nursing program, and they haven't taken these classes. So what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like everybody else, they don't want to steer from their path and everything like that. So then I don't think he even spoke to his counselor. I think he was just like, I might as well take it. I'm already, this close and stuff like that. So I'm not the only one. There's been other students who are minorities, and they feel like there's more to do to get to the same route as somebody who's not a minority
Okay.
at West Hills and COS and the neighboring
Community college.
community colleges. Yes.
So, so what do you think about the current environment, and how is that different, or is it any different than the environment before? So, do you think there are changes that are happening, or do you think, um,
Even if there are a little bit of changes, but I think as a whole, even especially with learning in school, but as a whole, as a group of people, human race, there's way more to do.
mm,
There's way more that needs to be done. I'm from the west side of Fresno,
mm,
so I've seen stuff that should have never been seen from a young age, and then I went into the foster care system, and that within itself was a whole different ballgame and a whole different story. So a kid who had to move from school to school to school, elementary schools, because he didn't know what situation he's going to be in. Because, oh, it's time for you to leave, this one hit you, or it's time for you to leave, this one doesn't want you anymore.
mm,
It was hard for me to learn because every, month to a month and a half, I'm getting pulled out and put into another school. Yeah, I'm getting put in the same class, but It's also different how you're treated in a different class, different city,
Mm-hmm.
or a different, not even that, just a different home. Just the home itself was different. So there's there's a lot of room for change. Am I glad that we're talking about it? Am I glad that this is being brought up and people are recognizing? Like Juneteenth came up and it was recognized for the very first time. Yeah, that was amazing. But there's still a lot more to go.
Okay. So do you think had things had not happened, do you think we would be having these conversations?
Um, I don't think so. And I even now I think that that's all it is a conversation. I think eventually, and maybe this is me being 30 years old, but being black my whole life and seeing this happen again and again and happening even before this. If you step back and look back, and if you were to play a clip from the 60s until now, it kind of looks the same. And it's kind of like all you would need to do is add color to the 1960s, and then you wouldn't be able to tell what was going on because we look like we've gone back. So as a kid who grew up on the west side, who went through the foster care system, who's seen both a side of poverty and a side of parents who had who didn't have to want for anything, and they had good career jobs. um like I said, I think it's always going to be a conversation, and I don't think we'll ever have real change. And it could be because of the way that minorities view themselves, how minorities view that their voice still isn't heard. And that has everything to do with where we're at.
So do you feel that your voice is heard?
Not at all. No, not at all. I feel like I vote. I do vote, but I feel like my voice, me as a black male, I feel like no, it doesn't matter what I think.
So what are your views on Black Lives Matter?
Um, I think it's sad that we have to have that organization in 2020, but I think it's needed. Does that make sense? I wish we didn't, but this is where we're at. This is where life is. We're still facing injustice. People are still doing the same crimes, but depending on what you look like, you're throwing football numbers, on your prison sentence versus somebody who's, given probation. And like I said, it it stems from stuff that us as a human race should have gotten over years ago. Like, it doesn't make sense that we're still fighting over something so small.
Yeah. So, and in this regard, do you think the protests are relevant?
For me, I feel like protests, especially the ones that have been going on, have been the ongoing of people not being heard. Whether it was basketball players trying to use their platform, football players trying to use their platform, and it's like, why can't you just be happy? Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? People got frustrated, and then you see somebody's death on camera for 8 minutes. You know what I mean? And I think it was more of a whoa, like, what are we doing here, like, type of thing. And then other people, minorities, were like, no, this is what happens every day. This is what we've been trying to do. This is what other football players and everybody has been trying to warn people against, and it went unheard. So do I think it's irrelevant? I think it's a frustration that had to be let out. And it came about this way.
How do you think education, or can education play a part in the changes that are
Most definitely.
happening?
Most definitely. I'm not trying to give a history lesson, but education has always affected the have and the have-nots. Poverty versus kids who come from good backgrounds. Like, for instance, like I said, I grew up from the west side of Fresno. Or, I'm from the west side of Fresno. not having laptops, not having books that are up to date, um, and not having the faculty really care about you. You know, it's basically like, I just go and teach them this and then I leave. You know what I mean? I feel like education should really, especially history. I think the history part of education should definitely dive into more about what was going on, what was going on with minorities, whites, what was happening at that time. And I think we all need to be educated on that. I think education plays a huge part because at the end, a lot of the kids are starting to try to figure out how to get out of their situation, and some of them aren't athletic. You know, some of them can't run fast. Some of them can't jump a mile over, like jump over a car, something like that. So what do they have? And if you were to give them the same starting blocks as somebody who comes from a good side, I'm pretty sure they would outwork them or do just as good in those situations. It's just a lot of them aren't given the opportunity. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I started going to school, is because I have nephews and nieces that are raised on that side of town still. And what would it be like just for me to just settle? I have to show them other routes. You know what I mean? Because right now they're thinking, oh, I got to become great at football, or I got to become great at this, or I got to, date somebody who has money or something like that. Nah, not my family. I'm here to try to change that. It's a lot of pressure, but I think I got big shoulders for a reason.